Back from the dead.
Ladies and gentlemen, the countdown has just begun. Are you ready? Let's go.
Now we're back from the dead.
Just dropped my gum out of my mouth. I was like, bleh. What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. And how's everybody doing out there? Hopefully you guys like the new intro. I love it. I think it's a little bit more informative. And yeah, I think my editing skills are getting better and better. I was hoping to have it edited a little bit sooner, but when you do post-production, like for anybody that's out there, when you start editing something, like you'll step away and then you're like, I could do that better. I could do that better. So that's what happened. Like I would edit and then I'd step away and I'd be like, I don't like that. And finally I was like, you've got to stop and just go with it. Post-production is one of those things that you can never be finished with, or when you're editing, you feel like you're never actually finished with it. So I wanted to talk about something a little bit more on the light side this week. I know there's been a lot of negative energy going around, not just in the United States, like I think it's worldwide because a lot of you guys have messaged me about it. No matter what side of the political spectrum that you stand on, we all have to agree that there's just been a lot of hate and anger and fighting. And so I thought to myself, what could I talk about that isn't like death, because like that's all we talk about. And it just so happens that I met this woman last week in Vegas, and that is kind of who gave me the inspiration behind this video. So last week I was out shopping in Vegas because I'm really good at it. And I was standing in line at this store and this lady comes up to me and she was like, oh, this line's so long, and it was kind of just like chit chat, and I was like, yeah, it sucks, but I really want this stuff, so I'm gonna wait it out. And slowly over time, she was like, oh, are you a local or are you visiting too? And I was like, oh no, I'm a local. And she was like, so what do you do for work? Is there a lot of jobs? How's the economy? And I said, actually, I work in Vegas and in LA. And I said, I'm a paranormal producer. I do freelance producing. And she was like, oh. So one of two things happens if I decide to drop that bomb on people. Either they look at me like I'm crazy and they're like, you probably worship Satan. Or they're like, oh my God, I have had all of these paranormal experiences. Let me tell you about what has happened in my life. So luckily she embraced it and she said, oh my gosh, I am from Joplin, Missouri, and have you heard of the butterfly people? I said, yeah, I've actually heard of it. In fact, if you guys saw the episode of Monsters and Mysteries, that is the first place I've ever heard of the butterfly people. So she went on to tell me stories and things that happened. And she finished by telling me that they have murals all over the city of actually, what butterfly people have been depicted as. So the conversation ended and I came home and did some research, and I wanted to talk to you guys about it to see your feedback and what you think about what these butterfly people actually are. So in May of 2011, there was a tornado that hit this little town called Joplin, Missouri. It is technically considered Tornado Alley. I have family in Missouri. It is technically considered Tornado Alley. Apparently they had a basic warning for like a thunderstorm that had come in. It didn't look hazardous. I don't know if you guys have ever been in a tornado or had a tornado warning. I have in Colorado. They're fun. Long story short is Sirens start going off. You have to run down into the basement. Hopefully you have access to a basement. And you basically cover up with whatever you can. If you go outside to look to see if anything is happening in the sky, usually it's like swirling clouds, and it's very surreal. It's happened to me several times. I've never actually been in a tornado, thank God. So in Joplin, they think it's just a regular, you know, regularly scheduled thunderstorm, and no one has a warning of what's about to happen. The news anchors, the television reporters, the radio stations had no idea that a gigantic tornado was about to drop with 200-mile-per-hour winds. So Joplin is considered a small town. It has about 50,000 residents. This giant tornado hits. It ends up killing 161 people. No one understands why the death toll is so low. By the way, the people that lost their lives, may they rest in peace. People that came out of basements and homes and wherever they were hiding saw the devastation that it created. It basically ruined about 900 homes. It like annihilated the entire area. People saw the devastation and assumed that there was not going to be a ton of survivors, sadly. Even law enforcement, paramedics assumed driving up to the devastation that there was probably little to no chance of much life that had survived this tornado. So as people are coming out of the rubble, they're surviving, they have their children, and there's first responders that are there. They're taking some to hospitals, local hospitals that weren't devastated by the tornado. And other first responders are actually just on hand, on site where the tornado hit. And pretty soon they start realizing that the children that they're treating, even if children don't have wounds like gashes or scrapes or cuts, they're still checking them out to make sure they're not in shock or have other problems. And all of the children, mostly from ages like 2 to 6, were telling the first responders about the butterfly people. There were literally hundreds of stories that came out about the butterfly people. The one that was featured on Monsters and Mysteries was an actual mother in Joplin. She was driving on the highway with one of her children. Her other kids were at home. She thought it was just a regular storm like it had been announced through the weather service. And as she started to pull up to her home, she realized a tornado was about to hit. And she didn't think her children in the house knew what was about to happen. So she knew she had to get home as soon as possible. Once she got home, she hurled all of her kids, maybe 3 to 5 children, inside of a closet. It doesn't look like they had a basement. And they ended up covering themselves with blankets and closing the door shut with a mattress. Eventually the tornado does hit their house and it actually rips the roof off. And for some reason, the closet that they were in probably couldn't have been bigger than like a 4x6 walk-in closet. They said that the walls in the closet didn't get torn down. The roof was off. They could see everything flying above them inside of their tornado. They were scared they were going to get sucked up into the tornado. And she said all of a sudden her youngest son, who at the time was 3 or 4, looked up at her and said, "Mommy, do you see the butterfly people? Aren't they beautiful?" And the mother said, "I couldn't see them. I had no idea what he was talking about." She said her son kept telling her that he was telling her everything was going to be okay, that they were protecting them, that they were hovering right over them, that they had really big wings, and they were making sure that they were staying safe and they weren't going to be hurt. Her other kids did not witness this, and neither did she. But they got out of the tornado, thank God, in one piece. There were a few other really big stories that came out of Joplin. One was a guy was driving a van with his son in the car. I think he was 3 or 4 was what the report said. And the tornado had actually physically picked up their van and they were inside of the air. He said he'd been watching cars crash and fall down on the ground. He said he was waiting for their van to crash and they were going to die. His son all of a sudden said, "Daddy, look ahead. There's people with big wings." He had seen this really big, maybe a trailer or a semi coming at their car, and he thought they were going to die because they were also midair. And he said his son said that the people with the wings were holding back this trailer from hitting them, from actually hitting their car. And his dad actually braced himself and closed his eyes because he assumed it was his time to cross over. And somehow the van ended up being kind of gently landing on the ground. Another big story that came out of Joplin was this woman and her daughter were driving when the tornado hit, and she did not want to be inside of the car when the tornado picked up the vehicle. So she pulled over to the side of the road, got her daughter out of the car. Her daughter was about 2. They laid down in a ditch. The tornado got closer, and she was sure that this rolling vehicle was going to be hitting them head on and smash them. She said she couldn't really get up because of the winds of the tornado, so she kind of laid there holding her daughter, bracing for the impact. And that's when her daughter started saying, "Mommy, there's butterfly people and they're holding back the vehicle so we don't get hurt." And the mother could not see these people either. They ended up okay. They did not get hurt in the end. There are so many stories, so many stories. So the first responders ended up having the kids actually draw pictures, mainly when they'd get to the hospital or get to a safe site, so that they could get photos of what these butterfly people were considered. Most of the kids did not call them angels. They actually called them butterfly people. So the question is that because they're not sure what an angel is, or was this some sort of a different phenomena? Eventually, the town people of Joplin took these photos of the butterfly people. Some of the community members actually participated in making these murals around Joplin. And this lady that I spoke to that was a local said that they made these murals because they really feel like these butterfly people are who protected them and protected their community and some of even the houses from being hit by the tornado. And it also prevented the death toll from being catastrophic. I was shocked talking to her because she didn't refer to them as angels. She referred to them as well as butterfly people. She did, define that none of the adults saw any of these images of the butterfly people that all of the children are talking about. But mysteriously, all of them that drew pictures looked similar. And they were detailed wings, sometimes colorful, sometimes not. But the wings were so giant, it was like the size of whoever it was that had them on. They weren't just tiny little wings. I like talking about different things besides just paranormal because there's so many different spectrums of this field that we are all in love with, It's always going to be a changing field. It's always developing. There's always new technology that's being invented. Don't even know what its max capacity is. I feel like we've just barely scratched the surface with the other side and interacting with it. So my question to you guys is, have you ever experienced a phenomenon like this? Have you guys ever looked into this? Have you ever heard of what these butterfly people are? Do you guys think that they were actually angels that maybe the kids were interpreting as butterfly people? Do you think it was something else? Do you believe that it's possible? This is an amazing thing, I think, that happened, and the fact that the town has embraced it. Another interesting thing, that the town has never been hit with another tornado since that giant one in 2011. So are the murals protecting the community? Are they making the right decision by keeping them up? As hard of times as it is right now, we do have to remember that there are no rainbows without rain. And I feel like Joplin definitely proved that, even if it was through a paranormal phenomenon. Please make sure you subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Make sure you follow me on social media. Leave me good comments below and answer my questions. What do you guys think about the butterfly people? Do you think it's real? Do you think another existence of phenomena could, happen? Have you heard of other things like this that I haven't? Let me know what you guys think, and I will catch you guys next time.